This game was played in the World Chess Championship of 2024 in Singapore between Liren and Gukesh Dommaraju. Liren had the white pieces, while Gukesh played black. The game ended in a draw after a balanced fight. White begins with pawn to e4. Black responds pawn to e5. This is the classical open game where both sides fight directly for the center. White develops knight to f3. Black develops knight to c6. Both knights are now controlling the central squares d4 and e5. White plays bishop to c4. Black mirrors with bishop to c5. This is the Italian game, aiming for rapid development and control of the center. White plays pawn to d3. Black develops knight to f6. Both sides are developing pieces carefully, avoiding early pawn clashes. White develops knight to c3. Black pushes pawn to a6. This move prevents White's bishop or knight from jumping to b5. White pushes pawn to a4. Black plays pawn to d6. Both sides are reinforcing their positions. White castles kingside. Black plays pawn to h6. This prevents White's bishop or knight from coming to g5. White develops bishop to e3. Black develops bishop to e6. Both bishops are now facing each other, aiming at the center. White pushes pawn to a5. Black captures bishop with bishop takes c4. White recaptures with pawn to d takes c4. Black castles kingside. White captures bishop with bishop takes c5. Black recaptures with pawn to d takes c5. White plays pawn to b3. Black exchanges queens with queen takes d1. White recaptures with rook takes d1. Black develops rook to d8. White develops rook to c1. Black moves knight to d4. White retreats knight to e1. Black develops rook to d6. White plays king to f1. Black pushes pawn to g6. White develops rook to d1. Black develops rook to d8. White pushes pawn to f3. Black plays king to g7. White plays king to f2. Black pushes pawn to h5. White retreats knight to e2. Black moves knight to c6. White develops knight to c3. Black moves knight to d4. White retreats knight to e2. Black moves knight to c6. White develops knight to c3. Black moves knight to d4. The game ends in repetition and is declared a draw. Strategically, this game shows how both players aimed for solid development without taking risks. Liren tried to gain space on the queenside with pawn to a4 and pawn to a5, but Gukesh responded calmly with exchanges and solid placement of his knights. The repeated knight maneuvers to d4 and back to c6 show how Black neutralized White's attempts to create pressure. For beginners, the lesson is that sometimes the best strategy is patience and solid defense. When both players develop carefully and avoid weaknesses, the game can lead to a balanced draw. It also shows the importance of controlling central squares like d4 and e5, and how knights can be repositioned to maintain pressure without committing to risky attacks. Thank you for watching this analysis. If you enjoy this type of content and want to see more explained games, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss anything.